Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Carai,
And this is your co-host Sync.
and let's have the conversation. That being said, I just want to welcome everyone to episode 0 of the Conversation Podcast, the world's premier podcast geared towards entertainment, all things influencers, esports personalities, and just all big names in entertainment in general. More specifically, right now, talking to a lot of really renowned members, really cool members in the Storm community. It's been a joy. But this podcast has been a long time coming thing. I originally had this idea back in 2020, but of course, life got in the way. And it's interesting because, Sync, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I actually recorded the first episode of the conversation back in 2022. I found this file the other day as I was doing some digging and making our profile picture and things like that. And I found the first episode. Originally the podcast was going to be called the CaRai Conversation. It was only going to have me on the podcast. And originally I was actually so at some point I was thinking about doing it for what we eventually decide on now. But at that point in time, because a lot of life circumstances were in the way, I was like, let me just get it out here. Let me just get some concepts out here. And so I was actually going to do it was actually going to be more so geared towards motivation and stuff like that. And so it was a 10-minute episode on a very motivational person by the name of David Goggins. For those that don't know, David Goggins, very inspirational person who came from nothing and really just out of nothing made something. All of his videos get people hype and just an all around amazing person. And so it's interesting to come from that first initial episode in 2022 to now the podcast is real. We have a YouTube channel, we have all these different socials. Clips are going to go out. We're going to do an episode every week. This is the first episode. It's really amazing. Um so yeah.
Holy smokes, that sounds really good, and it sounds like you really have this plan going forward. And for me, I'm really happy and grateful to be a co-host in your podcast idea, and being part of the conversation team. Um, I came from I think not a lot of people know. I did get taught by this man. This man is one of my teachers in the storm days. So being with my teacher again, he really did help me as well with this. And so later on in the conversation, we will explain where we came from and why we came from. It'll be very important.
Yeah. Um no, for sure. Been knowing each other for a long time, 10 plus years at this point. For those of you that don't know, originally I got my start in Storm 2. I was one of the community originators, if that's what you want to call it. I've been here since the very beginning, since the beginning of the Xbox community. For those of you that don't know, originally the first Naruto competitive Naruto fighting game community existed in Broken Bonds, which was a game exclusively for Xbox. And then later we had the Storm series come out. And so we had, of course, the Xbox scene from Broken Bonds follow into Storm 2 and what would eventually make the Storm 2 community. And then that's also when the PS3 community started as well in terms of the Storm series. I started at the and when I mean the very beginning, I mean literally pre launch Storm 2 days. I remember getting on YouTube and just rewatching that Kakashi boss battle trailer, just rewatching these, just as much content as I could possibly watch, just trying to get ready for the game and just scouring all of YouTube, all the internet for information on this game. It was insane. I could not get enough information on this game pre launch. And I remember I saw there was a guy that posted on YouTube, and his name was TSN Toby. And I remember him saying, "Hey, we got a clan tryout, blah blah blah." So I add this dude before the game comes out, right? Maybe about 2 months before I add him, and He says, "Yeah, bro, when the game comes out, just hit me up." So fast forward 2 months later, the game is out. Comes out during the month of September, I believe. So hype, so awesome. Was my first game I pre-ordered, by the way. I was so hyped for it. I remember literally just begging my mom, "Hey, can you take me to GameStop?" Because GameStop was literally like 40 minutes away from where I live, and my mom wasn't trying to do a drive for all that. And so I begged her and begged her, "Hey, please take me to GameStop." I believe I came there a few months prior for a doctor's appointment. So I'd already been pre-ordering Storm 2. So little did she know, we were going to GameStop to get this game. The moment I pre-ordered that game months before, we were going to GameStop to get this game. I did not care. But of course, I had to ask mom anyway. So mom ended up, obviously taking me there to get it that day of, and I was able to get it. I had it pre-ordered, it was paid for, got it, came home, and the rest was really history from there. I ended up messaging TSN Toby, and we played a lot. I tried out for the clan. He kind of wanted me to be in the clan, but he was kind of like, "I don't know, you're kind of playing weird." And then he introduced me to a man who would later become my rival by the name of Tsuyoshi. Tsuyoshi was like my first rival in the game, and honestly, he was probably the reason that really pushed me at the very beginning because he just knew a lot of dumb spams. Like he would do Dadar spam, which when you're first starting off, Dadar spam is like literal god to you. Like throwing and spamming birds is just too much for you to deal with. And so he would do all kinds of cheesy things to beat me and honestly just farm me at the very beginning. But I eventually, caught on and so on and so forth. How did you get your start at the beginning, EMP?
Oh, for me, I started, around like the same idea, like Storm 2, I saw the scans, I was like, oh my god, I was hyped. I saw the scans, watched the trailers, but I really didn't get into the comp community due to the time, due to money, and due to not able to have online with Xbox Live back in the day. I did come from the Xbox side of the community as well. Once I did get enough money from a dude that I knew from my high school. His name, I would say, the nickname of him would be Sabby. Sabby gave me the Xbox 360 wireless adapter. If anyone did not know, the back then I had the white Xbox 360 or the original Xbox 360 where it didn't have built-in Wi-Fi, so I had to get an adapter for it. And once I got the adapter, once I got Storm 2 in August of 2011, I played a bit of COD. Actually, I started a bit of COD, and then I would meet one of my friends, one of my most important father figures. I'll for I guess some people are obsessed with names. I'll give him the nickname or code name Poison. I met Poison in Modern Warfare 2, quickscoping, and he is the one that really kind of gatewayed me into Naruto. In the Naruto Storm 2 competitive community, he was in the community at the time, and he did tell me after a game of Search and Destroy, of doing quickscopes on our terminal, he said, EMP, and that's the name I went by the time, EMP, did you know about like Naruto Storm? And I was like, yeah, I knew about Naruto Storm. Do you like Naruto and the anime? I'm like, yeah, I like the anime. Do you want to get the game and we can play together? I'm like, sure. And I was more of the naivety mindset since I never really got kind of like used to online. So I was kind of naive. And fun fact, I did say this and I said the most naive stuff. I said 3 hours of Storm 2 and I was one of the top players in the game. Oh, it was kind of silly back then. I know. I look at it now, it's kind of embarrassing, but it's kind of like those little things that you kind of like appreciate and kind of like realize that you started from this humble beginning and went through a lot. Um, After playing Poison and Naruto and Kakashi's, and I was talking Sasuke, he was Kakashi. We FT3'd, and he said, EMP, would you like me to teach you? I'm like, yes. That 2011, around the August of 2011, I got into comp due to a Poison, and after that, I did go through experiences with Storm. Went through trials and hurdles. My first really big hurdle was a dude named Nozomi Kujo Liy. I remember that dude. That dude, to me, I thought he was chill. But again, that was my naivete and not really coming from a. This is my first time online with other individuals and not knowing what I was getting myself into, and I, got tricked by him and I got tricked by other people. It was unfortunate, but I learned from that and grew. And then after that, played a bit of Storm 2, trained with him, every other often playing Storm 2. At first, I didn't really like it, but over time, I enjoyed it. And after enjoying it, I would be one of my rivals from this day. SPN Sasuke, Kapachi Saikyo. He would be my rival, and he would be the dude that I would face. And he would be my kind of like rival. And after that, Poison said there was a team that my boy CaRai here was making at the time. And I said, sure, I want to join. And that's where I meet another teacher that taught me Storm and a lot of things, CaRai. And that's how I got my start.
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting. One of the things that stuck out that you said was just kind of identifying the journey from the humble beginnings to much later on. I remember when I was just so bad at Storm 2, and then meeting Tsuyoshi and him prompting me to get better, and then meeting my really good friend Ichigo and joining his clan. Uh, Shinigami Elite, shout out to Shinigami Elites. If you know, you know. Way back when, it was awesome, just fun times. That helped me grow so much, and I just became really obsessed with just getting good at the game from a standpoint of just being good at the game. And so, really, what was so cool about back then was that, one thing I noticed about the community back then is that we were just down to play. We, I kid you not, it was normal to play 30 plus games. When you sat down with someone, you were playing 30 plus games. And that's just the way it went back then. There was no, I'm going to play you a few games and maybe I get the best of you the first 4 games, so I'm going to leave. There was no, we're going to do this first to 10. I beat you in this first to 10, so now all of a sudden, you know, I don't see you for the next few months. No, it was, you're going to play 30, 40, 50 games, even more than that. And then you're going to take a break, but your break is COD. And then after you get done with your break, which is playing a bunch of COD, you're going to come back and play Storm. You're going to play even more 40, 50 game sessions. And it was just amazing. It really was. I will say that nowadays, it's hard to really get that out of the blue. I mean, obviously, if you play top players, they're not just gonna. Well, the good ones aren't the nice ones. I'll put it this way, aren't gonna one and done you, right? They're not gonna just beat you in the first to 10 and dodge you. Like the people who really care about competition are always gonna be down to play. Like for example, Playco. I remember out of the blue when I really met him in Storm 4, he was just down to play in Storm 4, and he didn't know me. He didn't really have a reason to play against me, honestly, and we played, and it was fun. But the point I'm trying to make is that, the journey to get to where we are now it's been fun. It really has. There's been a lot of fun elements. I'll say this, in Storm 2, I had gotten so good to the point of where I was, without a doubt, a top 10 player. Arguably, I would say I made a case for number one, but I made a few very important drops at the end of the game, and that cost me a lot of brownie points. I feel like if I hit the nail on its head with these certain interactions, for example, we had a really big Xbox tournament. I dropped the ball there, lost to someone I shouldn't have lost. Cost me a lot of brownie points because everyone suddenly started thinking, maybe he isn't number one. Maybe he's good, but maybe he's not that number one spot. And so I would say I was arguably number one. Definitely made a strong case for top three. And then in generations, I'd say I made a strong case for top 10. Super high level player in the mix, knee deep in the community. Participated in one of the most prolific clan battles in probably all of Xbox history. If you know, you know. And then in Storm 3, high level player, but I started to kind of take a different approach, a different turn because Storm 3 was when the community started to really get toxic. And so I started to really distance myself. I started to not really care as much for the sake of competition. And I started to, at that point, I had something to lose, right? Like I wasn't just that random noob getting destroyed by Dadar anymore. I was now, this super good player from Storm 2, super good player from Generations, super good player in Storm 3. So I had more to lose. And so from there, I really just started playing with my clan and kind of being even toxic myself to where in Revolutions, I took a step back because I didn't like Revolutions at all. And fun fact, before Connections came out, I thought Revolutions was the worst Storm game, but no, without a doubt, I can say Connections takes the cake. I'd rather play Revolutions over Storm 2, honestly. Just because Revolutions has a flow and a meta to it that makes sense. I don't like it, but it makes sense. And there's still a lot of skill aspect involved. And then I came back in Storm 4, and I played, I reconnected with a lot of old friends from the Xbox side, and it was just all really good fun. And then Connections came out. I didn't really get to play too much of Connections at the beginning. I was there like the first month, and then after that, I kind of disappeared, and now I'm back, and I'm playing Connections and doing Connections content. But it's been really interesting. Another thing that I can really remember is that in Storm 2, definitely pioneered a lot of different things. Definitely pioneered a lot of the Minato meta in that game. One thing specifically was the double balance spam in that game. No one. So if you speak to people, they might vouch for this, but it's been so long ago. Everyone's memories are like just jaded at this point. I created the double balance spam. I'm just gonna put it out there. The double balance meta in Storm 2, I created that because I was looking for a way to destroy Sasori. I started testing double balance, and then I started using it, and then it got really big. But it's one of those things of where, because yes, there was a lot of competition back then, people aren't going to necessarily give you that much props, even if they should. Maybe it's changed. I mean, I personally, I give people a lot of props now that I've matured and gotten older. I give people more props from back then. I'm honest about who was considered the best and things of that nature. Like, for example, um, I would say in Generations at the very beginning, well, Jeffy was the best at Generations at the very beginning. And then later on, it was kind of more of a toss up between a lot of different players because people caught up. Then in Storm 3, some prolific players from Generations that were in the Heavens clan, Zapman and Yagami, got really strong to where a lot of people were saying Yagami was the best in Storm 3. So, I'm very honest about that now. I guess it's just something that comes with age, You get more and more mature and you start to be more honest about these things. But I definitely did create that double balance now. I really did. I don't know if people will admit it, but that's just kind of like a little fun fact.
I guess for me, I took a more grounded approach and kind of like more of the, you can call it mindset back in the day. I went through a lot personally due to my ignorance of online, just not knowing how to correctly flow, and it really kind of back then stopped me from progressing a lot. But in Gens in Storm 3, I played players like Jeffy and Gens, Californication in Storm 2, and people like you know, uh, I'm ex Sasuke, and I wasn't exactly the like super great or nothing, but I was a person that kept on going, kept on trying to get better at Storm because back then I felt a passion for it, even if the community took a more toxic turn for the worst around Storm 3. I kept going, I kept pushing, and I had this wall that I realized I was pushing through. And I'll be honest on it, I'm older, and I realized I had the wall, and it frustrated me to no end how I could push the wall. And with that wall frustration, I did get students. I taught many students throughout Storm 2, G, 3, and not Rev. I took a break from Rev and 4. And with that, I went through many people, many journeys, and I think Storm 4 is when I took more of the comp seriously back then. And I went a route of I personally wouldn't care. I would just destroy anything in front of my face and got the results that I need to. I quit Storm around 2017 and took a step back and realized that hey, what I was doing is immature, what I was doing is wrong, and the way I was getting better, yeah, I was getting better, but I was losing friendships, I was losing a lot of things in the detail, in the background, and not really considering how other things would feel. Um, with that, I did get taught by my teacher CaRai here. He did teach me a lot. We did fight every day. He did give me tips here and there, and I did try to fight forward. With no matter what I went through, I kept going forward. Um, I wasn't, big on achievements, but I did. I think in Storm 4, I did create one of the first Momoshiki or Kinshiki Sun locks, and I have the footage on YouTube if anyone's interested in that. I did create some other stuff with the Awakening as well with Kinshiki, knowing that if you use the Awakening action and then switch back, it makes a completely big stun lock. Due to the fact that the game, I don't know, just goes big poop on logic. And I did teach a lot of people, and I did help, in clans like the new gen clans like Yakuza and stuff like that as an advisor around 2018 and onwards. I became like a teacher, a person that's willing to share my experiences within the Storm community. And yes, I wasn't in like the top 10 or nothing, but I did go through the comp experience. I did fight people like Jeffy and all of them, interacted with them, and participated in those things, even though I wasn't the best or wasn't good at all. But I did have experience within the Storm community at high levels at the time. So I had input and I had the understanding to help these people grow, and I did. Some of them turned toxic and some of them didn't. It was, as a mixed bag. But as a teacher, as somebody who is teaching people to, live their best life and not go through the path that I went through in Storm. Because, um, there's positives, obviously, within the Storm community, but there's also negatives. And I was more the person that went through the underground stuff and went through more of the negative stuff of the community. If you get ignorant, if you get lazy, if you get undisciplined, if you get you know uninformed of what you're doing, it's a much tougher journey for you. And I did beat my rival eventually, Kapachi, after many years of fighting him and stuff like that. I finally beat my rival, and we had that final talk and stuff like that, and it went off better on a good note because we both matured, we both aged into better people. And shout out to my boy Kapachi. I hope you're doing great, and hopefully you're living your best life possible, my man. Because I appreciate you being there for me, even if it wasn't like we didn't like each other very much, but you were there for me and like as a rival, as somebody that would help me push myself forward and keep me going myself in this path of Naruto. Storm is not a perfect community, but it's a community that we all enjoy and love, and we shouldn't forget that. We shouldn't forget that the reason why we went in the Storm community in the first place is because we had passion for the game, we had love for the game, we had you know we wanted to make this community great. Although, we may fall at times, if we can keep going back up and come back up together as a community, we could do things that are possible.
Yeah, I mean, sky's the limit. Connections is in a really, really rough spot, but you never know what could happen. You never know how the game could be patched. You never know how it could grow. Melee had been out for literally a decade before it got its major shot in 2013 at Evo, which literally skyrocketed the game into a major esports where there's sponsors and all kinds of money in the scene. So maybe that could happen for Storm 4. I mean, Storm 4 has been out since 2016, so what, 8 years going on 9 years. So it's coming up on its decade. So maybe that could happen for Storm 4 with the resurgence that we're seeing from it and how there's still a significant player base on it. One thing that you mentioned was about rivals and how you finally did, face off with Kapachi again. It's interesting because I'll never forget at the end. So it was weird because I remember early on I told Tsuyoshi that we were going to have a final battle. This was at the beginning of the game's lifespan when in Storm 2 when he was destroying me and he was just kind of like, all right, all right. And so we quite literally avoided fighting each other all the way until the end. And I mean, we were probably a month away from Generations back then. A month away from Generations. And we end up getting in the same party and we start talking about it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, we did say that." And so we kind of, at that point we were like, "Okay, let's go ahead and do it." And so I think it might have been a first to 10 or something. I don't know. But, no shade to Tsuyoshi, but he did get destroyed. It really wasn't even close. It wasn't close at all. But he ended up saying, he gave me my props. He did. He said, "I can't believe you got that good," because I didn't really realize it, but not to toot my own horn at Storm 2, but god dang, like back then I was way better than I thought I was, and I didn't really realize this until Trilogy came out in 2017, and I played Storm 2, and then I looked at, I thought about how I used to play back then, and I was like, wow. Not only am I super freaking rusty right now, but back then I was kind of stupid good at this game for no reason. I guess there was a reason because I played it so much. Literally, like, I remember on Twitter, Playco went viral because he showed that he had played over 10,000 hours in Storm 4. I feel like I played almost 20,000 hours in Storm 2, and I can actually prove it. It's crazy, but I still have my Storm 2 disc from back then. And when I tell you this disc is effed up beyond repair, this disc is effed up. Like, if I show this disc to the world, you got there's no doubt in my mind you guys wouldn't believe, oh yeah, this man played probably 50,000 hours of Storm 2. This disc is so broken. It's chipped, like the inside is like razor, like just razor, but from just so much wear and tear. There's so much, like literally, there's just on the back. There's so many scratches. There's so many scratches. It's insane. And so I say all that to say that like you said, Sync, really, you know, yeah, the Storm community is not perfect, but there's memories and there's love and passion that has been poured into the series over time. I just wish that we as a community would just kind of like really just to put it bluntly, just get our act together and just go. That's one of the reasons why I believe this podcast was a good idea because you know now players are going to be able to come on here and talk about their story, things that have happened to them, how they feel about the series and things of that nature. Because we're going to talk to people all over, right? Like if they're an older player and they're still around, we're gonna get them. We're gonna do an interview with them. We're gonna talk to them. Um, so that I think that would be pretty crazy, just kind of getting that insight for the community, and also so the community can kind of learn that there's lore behind this game. For those of you that don't know, like there's a reason why you see certain names to this day. Playco, to my understanding, he really started developing his name in Storm 3, and then he really started taking the game seriously in Revolutions. There's other, prolific players that have been around for a long time as well. Like Dark Mask is another one. I mean, a lot of players that are really strong today have been around for a while. And so there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of deep history in the game, and we're gonna go there. We're gonna get as many of these people as we can, as many that are as willing to do interviews, and we're gonna bring you guys a story and and just help out ultimately, because I think that the community could benefit a lot from this. And so far, from the people we've talked to, we're not gonna tell you guys obviously because you gotta wait. You gotta wait for the episodes to premiere, but so far to the people we've talked to, I mean, they've enjoyed their experience. Like every episode has been great. I feel like there's something for everyone. Each episode, there's insight from everyone in each episode, so it's been great. It really has. Sync, do you have maybe like a person or two or three people that you're excited to interview? It could be anyone, right? Like,
Um,
it doesn't have to be a Storm player. They can transcend to other communities or whatever. But is there someone that you really are eager to interview at some point?
I guess for me, personally for me, I would love to interview Sonic Fox. He seems like a very interesting person, and would love to interview him one day. Justin Wong, the dude who was a Street Fighter Third Strike player. He was very dope, and I want to get that moment where how did he do that moment with the one character and made a perfect move in that tournament in 2003. I always wanted to know that. That was a thought process in my head. How did that man do it so perfectly and nice? And then finally, maybe Nee from Tekken. I would love to interview that man from Tekken. And I guess to go back to the conversation of like games, I remember like my training. Holy smokes, I used to do FD100s, every day, just training and training my bone away. I probably have a good 10,000 hours, maybe 20,000 hours times like each game I played, except Revolution didn't play much in Connections. I don't even have the game. Um, that I put in. I put in 100,000 hours of Storm gameplay throughout my career before I ultimately went to a tutor role. and not became competitive no more. So it really kind of like you mentioned like your disc getting scratched up. My mind was getting scratched up like every day. It was just nothing. Storm 2, Storm G, Storm 3, just training, 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 nothing but training. FT100s almost every other day. It was a wild time, and I guess I guess it's just so different. It's so different. Maybe it's just I don't know what happened there, but maybe that's just my maybe it's just my maybe I skewed nostalgia talking.
No, I definitely see what you mean. Personally, um, I think there's just really is there just is a lot, you know. I think at face value, a lot of people like to kind of, you know, think of Storm as just some kind of dumb, uh, non-competitive arena fighter, but no, there's players in a history here. There's nostalgia, there's passion, there's sweat, blood, and tears poured into this series, and it's gonna be fun, each week going over this stuff with different guests with you guys. I think you guys are really gonna love it, gonna enjoy it. Personally, who I want to interview someday. Personally, oh man. So I have a few people. I would love to interview Ninja and Myth from Fortnite, 2018 Fortnite Boom. As many of you may know, Ninja, Myth, number one and number two at the beginning, the most viewers on Twitch, things of that nature. I would love to get their insight, especially Myth. I think he would make for an amazing interview just because, he comes up and he's this like, cocky, kind of arrogant kid, who doesn't really know anything from anything, but stumbles upon this. I wouldn't say stumble. He had been grinding and streaming for, a year or so, or maybe 2 years before then. And, he gets on Fortnite and he makes a name for himself, meeting Summit GG and pubs and outbuilding him and destroying him. And from there, his story begins in Fortnite. And Ninja, reason why I'm interested in interviewing Ninja is because Ninja is someone who underwent a huge change when Fortnite, with his Fortnite boom. And at the beginning, people were mad. They're like, Ninja, be toxic. Ninja, be the way you used to be. And he wouldn't do it. And a lot of people were saying he switched up. But what I find so interesting about Ninja is that if you check into his streams to this day, sometimes I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I tune into a Ninja stream every now and then, and I'll watch some Fortnite because I know he's gonna bring some good gameplay. He's gonna bring his classic self, and it's just gonna be a good time. And it's so interesting how he changed for the better during that moment, and he still is that same person that he was when he changed back in that Fortnite moment. So those two for sure. Fighting game players, oh man. So I would love to interview, um, for example, I know I would love to interview some Melee legends. I would love to get a PPMD interview, super prolific Melee player. Honestly, an Armada interview. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I would love to get all the five gods for anyone that knows the Melee lore. Before anyone could win, at some point in time for several years, only five players could win, and these players were known as the five gods: PPMD, Armada, Mango, Hungrybox, Mewtwo King. I'd love to interview them as well. Sonic Fox is another good pick. I'm glad you brought Sonic Fox up. I would love to get an interview with Sonic Fox just because this guy's crazy. Like I remember watching him from way back in MK9 when everyone was saying, "Yo, there's this crazy new kid on the block. He's just YOLO," and he wasn't winning a lot, or he wasn't really winning in MK9, but people saw that he had potential. And then following his journey from MK9 all the way up to MK1, this man can still take names, and it's just crazy. He's still super good. Won Evo in MK1. He took a break a little bit from Mortal Kombat and was literally a fearsome competitor in DB Fighters. Was pretty much the only one consistently giving Go 1 trouble. So I would love to get an interview with Sonic Fox because he's so prolific. A lot of the fighting game legends, but one who really sticks out is Daigo Umehara. I'd love to get an interview with him, even though I believe he only speaks Japanese. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, Daigo Umehara. I have a controversial pick, and if I say this name, I just know it won't look good. So I'm not gonna say this pick. I'll probably tell you, afterwards. But there is one person I would really like to interview, but I know because of the controversy surrounding this person, we probably won't be able to do it. It's just going to be too controversial. People aren't going to approve of it. But I would love to get an interview with this person just because if you separate the man from the competitor, this person was an amazing competitor. I, to this day, have never really seen someone with that kind of mentality and not only that, precision in their gameplay. So I would love to interview this person, but sadly, it probably won't happen just because it would just be too controversial. And I just know it wouldn't bode well. But there's that person. Um, and then really in terms of influencers, man, I'd love to just interview. I think you know, gosh, there's so many different influencers like just that I've seen in a lot of different places. I'm not really too sure about that, but I think really, you know, I think that you know maybe I don't know. I'd have to really think about that a little bit more. I'm not really too sure about influencers. Oh, another one that comes to mind, and this is the last one. I can't believe I forgot, but Optic Scumpy, King of COD, Optic Legend. Oh man, I would love to interview Scump and Nate Shot as well. I'm a man. I love watching Nate Shot back in the day, but really more importantly, I just I thought his story was very inspirational. How he was working at McDonald's and uh, found success in the competitive COD community. And so I would love to interview Nate Shot and Scump just because for the longest time I was a huge Optic fan, loved everything Optic. Um, was kind of taken aback when Scump retired, but ever since then I haven't really been keeping up with COD at all. So I couldn't tell you if Scump came back or not. I do see him streaming from time to time. Very rarely will I watch him, but I'd love to get an interview with him. So I'm hyped to interview a bunch of people, and it's just going to be a fun time. I hope that by us talking about the people that we're excited to interview, that you get an idea of really what we're gunning for in terms of guests. We're going to get guests far and wide. I believe we can do it. Sky's the limit. And we've already gotten some amazing guests as is. And so I think it's only going to continue to be a reoccurring thing. We're going to continue to bring you guys these awesome guests and share their story from the Storm community and not only the Storm community, but other communities.
Definitely. And I definitely would say, I am proud to, be a part of this, this journey with my teacher, with my father figure, Karai, and, and interviewing these amazing guests, bar and ride, as he said. And, there's people, I'm interested in also interviewing from other communities, FaZe Clan and stuff like that. That'd be amazing. I would love to, interview the original FaZe leader, dude who made like, the original trick shots in Modern Warfare 2. People like people like I'm not very sure. Maybe somebody like Avatar Yaya and Goku. I would love to interview those guys. Like people that are trying to make anime viable in other platforms, and it's I'm excited to see and to see where this thing goes. And I guess in Latin, it's carpe diem. It's seize the day. But we should seize the day and make our dreams reality.
100%. Um, you brought up a few more people. Someone else that comes to mind is Afro Senju. I'd love to get an interview with him just because he's the only Naruto Storm comp player to really make it out the trenches. For those that don't know, Afro Senju used to be heavy in Storm 3 comp. He used to be a part of Dark Mask Clan. And so he goes way back with a few Storm players. Like sometimes you can still catch him in Discord chats with him and everything. So he's still connected to his roots. I think it would be interesting to interview someone like that from the Naruto Storm community perspective, just because he made it out. He's doing it up big. His channel's always getting a lot of views, just a lot of different success. I believe he was a VIP at DreamCon, which recently just happened. So I think that would make for a great interview. Plus, Afro Century's just always hype. He's always just been a really, really dope hype man, just bringing the hype and things of that nature. But you can tell he's grown. He's definitely matured a lot more since his humble beginnings. Every time I tune into some Afro Senju, I always notice like, oh wow, he's he's expanding. These life experiences, he's expanding, and so that's always dope to see. But he would be a great person to interview. All in all, I think you guys are gonna love it. All the action we're gonna bring every week. I think it's gonna be great. I envision so much for this show, and it's exciting because at first I was like, man, it's gonna be hard getting a guest, and then before we knew it, we had 3 guests. So we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna see where we can go. It's funny because there's this crazy statistic that says that 99% of podcasts don't make it past episode 21, right? So out of all the podcasts that make it to, or actually 99% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20 to 21. So out of 100% of podcasts, only 0.1% of them make it to episode 21 because so many people drop off. And, it's hard. It's hard for some people because, they're thinking that, oh, I'm going to upload a few episodes and I'm going to blow up, but it's not going to happen that way. And so we're gonna bring you guys this content, and we're gonna be your favorite podcast. And don't worry, we're not gonna go anywhere because I know how that feels when you finally find a podcast that you're interested in and you're tuning into every week, and then guess what? They slow down or they just downright quit. I've had 2 favorite podcasts in the past 5 years, and both of them. No, I've had 3 favorite podcasts in the past 5 years, and all 3 of them no longer exist anymore. They've stopped uploading, and that sucks. That really sucks. So it's gonna be fun. As I've been talking to Sync off camera, let's try to hit our 21st video, and then we'll talk, right? Let's hit the 21st and then go from there because most podcasts don't make it past the 21st. This is literally episode 0. So we've still got 20, well, if you want to be technical, we got 20 more episodes. But if you want to adhere to the number count, we've got 21 more episodes to go. So I think it's going to be a blast. Sync, where can the people find you?
My Discord. You can find me on my Discord, underscore son. My PS, on the rare occasion, with my PS is sync double underscore coon. My Twitch is sync coon. My Instagram is sync coon as well, and also my YouTube, sync coon. And I guess promotion here, sub to my YouTube for more content because I am now a Bleach YouTuber. So, if you want more Bleach content and more things in the future discussing about Bleach and like anything with Bleach, like Bleach games, like Rebirth the Soul, I'm very hyped for that. Everybody get hyped for Bleach Rebirth the Soul. That game looking good right now. So, uncovering that right now. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. You guys can find me at YouTube, CaRai, at CaRai Storm, I believe. That's my username. I kind of forget because for the longest time I went by a different name. Twitter, it's at CaRai Storm as well. And let's see. I haven't set up any other socials yet, but for those that come back and view this episode at whatever time, I'll add those socials as I adjust them and as I become more active on them. But for the meantime, between time, definitely check me out on YouTube. I have started uploading content again. At this point in time, when you guys see this video, I'll already have 2 videos up. Just some discussions, just some practice, before we get to the highly edited good stuff that I know you guys are all waiting for. And then of course Twitter. I'm pretty active on Twitter. It's really super fast, easy way to reach me if you have any questions or things of that nature. But yeah, I'm gonna link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, all of those socials. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, yeah, I don't remember all my socials. So if you want to check your boy out, and you're curious, go check out this YouTube video or go to my Twitter, and there'll be more information there. And um, yeah, it'll be pretty dope. So without further ado, thank you all for watching the episode 0 of the conversation. It's crazy, but this is finally happening. Um, 4 years later from conception, this is finally happening, and I couldn't be more excited. So, without further ado, thank you guys for watching the conversation, episode 0, and stay tuned for more episodes. From this point forward, you're going to see us with a different guest every week. So, if you want to figure out who we're going to be talking to, who we're going to have on, you're just going to have to stay tuned and find out. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and just stay on top of it. This is your host, CaRai,
And your co-host Sync.
and we look forward to having the conversation with you in the future.